Hello everybody, welcome back. It is me, your old pal Orpheus, with another adventure here on Orpheus Plays. How you doing? It's been a little bit. I've been on and off sick here and there. Allergies, all that stuff. You don't need to know any of that stuff. Anyway, hi. I got a fun one for you today, and it is this. Are we getting dumber? We'll get to that in a minute. Anyway, I hope you're doing well wherever you are today, whether it is day or night. Doesn't matter to me. As long as you're here hanging out in the canyon with your old pal. Yeah, I got some snakes and stuff. Anyway, this is the canyon map. We are not in survival mode today. I know, weird. We're going to be playing Circle of Death here in the canyon. This is a mode where they just keep coming out and only one of them attacks me at a time. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, I've got some special weapons. I have a mod actually installed on this now. This is the Nomad port, by the way, of Blade Sorcery on the MetaQuest 3 and 3S and on the 2 and all that. Anyway, so this new mod, it's written by AI, okay? And before you start going, oh no, well, what it does is it chooses times to slow down the action, okay? So what you'll see is occasionally the game will decide that something epic is happening and that it needs to slow things down. But if you play this game, you'll notice this is not going to be the same as a regular slow motion, okay? So what'll happen, let me see if I can get it to go off. Come here. I need you over here. Let's see. Come here. We're going to do our first traditional slow motion kill of the day, but the game's going to do it for us, okay? See here. There we go. It slows things down for you, so you can just kind of do crazy stuff. Anyway, now that we got that one out of the way, let's do a regular traditional slow motion kill of the day. Oh, she's clever. There we go. And now with that out of the way, for real, let's get to today's topic. Okay, so this one might sound a little mean to some people. And I'm not going to apologize. It's something that's valid to me, and I think it might be valid to you. And that is that I think people are getting substantially dumber as we progress along through history here, modern history. I think people are just getting stupider, and it's kind of you have to zoom out a little bit to see this stuff. Okay, so one of the things that I've noticed, and I did an episode a little while ago about AI. And how amazing, there it goes again, it does the slow motion. Anyway, I did an episode recently about AI and how amazing it is, right? It's able to help you with tasks, it's able to help you with creativity. No longer do you have to worry about, oh, I'm not an artistic person, but I really want to create something, special. And so, what? Are you still alive? What is happening? Anyway, these mods have some goofy things going on. I'll show you another one in a minute. So the episode is basically like AI is awesome because it can help us with so many things, with education, with learning, with research, with things like that. And it just, it has all these great properties. Well, I noticed something today. Come here, bro. What is going on with you? Do I just chop you up like a vampire or something? Hold on. Okay, we'll do that. A little bit of that. Can I pick them up? Here. I don't even know what's happening right now. Oh my god. Anyway, so the thing is, we spend all this time with this great thing of AI, right? Well, today, I noticed in my Gmail, there is a new feature, and it's this AI summation thing, right? And it sits there at the top. If you do an email chain with somebody, right? You have a conversation back and forth. Once you get that first email, it's going to start to summarize it for you, right? So, excuse me. Oh, see, I still have the allergies. So, for an example, my wife and I were talking about something on an email today. And this is when I first noticed it, because this thing, it literally just told me what the conversation was about. And it wasn't just this email is about wanting to figure out some sort of order for something, to put where we're going to go for a vacation or something, right? Something like that. And it'll go, well, your wife's side said this. And then it goes then it tells you what you said back, and it's like, I know, because I said it back. You know? Like, why do I need it to tell me what I said as well? And so that got me thinking a little bit more down, come here, a little bit more down this line of like, I think we're getting dumber because it's not just AI, right? And this is kind of like, if you've watched a bunch of my episodes, you might kind of notice there's a gathering here, a little bit of a synergy going on. Hold on, I'm going to break her neck. Oh, no. That's a new mod I have. I figured out how to actually use it. You can use it in slow motion to get people, but if you hold on to them and hit a couple buttons, it's brutal. Anyway, so it's not just, you know, AI, and a lot of the episodes that I've done are things like, you know, why are we talking to each other differently, right? Why do we use just emojis now for everything that we do? Why does every comment we make on, like, you know, social media like X or Facebook or TikTok or wherever you are, why do we always feel this need to put an emoji on the end of it, right? And my point of that video was the basic idea of, well, it's because we're losing the... What? He like jump kicked into it. we're losing the ability to like express ourselves properly, right? And so what happens with that is you get to this point where we just don't know how to communicate with each other. Skewer here. Oh yeah. So we lose the ability to like talk to each other in any meaningful way, right? Okay. So I'm also noticing it in places like, and look, a lot of these technologies are great things, right? Auto-driving cars. Tesla, and I think a couple other companies do it, but Tesla's like in the lead right now for this stuff. They literally, like, the cars unsupervised can drive themselves all over the place. And like now the robo-taxis are doing it in a few cities. And it's just by itself, right? Well, when do we get to that point where like driving becomes this hobby, like niche thing you see on YouTube? Oh, today we're going to be driving to the pizza shop. Oh, I know, right? It's going to be 10 million views watching some guy go down to the Domino's and order a pizza, right? Because he drove himself, you know, because like there's videos of like people flying those, like the parachute with an engine on the back of it, paraglider. Like, you know, the video is, I go from my house to McDonald's in this thing, and it's like he's flying up in the air, and we're going, wow, right? Well, at what point are we going to get to that? Wow, okay. AI thought that was awesome, and it was. But when do we get to the point where it's like driving becomes this anachronistic thing where it's like, oh my gosh, you still drive your car? I don't even know how to do that, right? And there, you know, there's already people now that just, they don't know how to drive. Like flat out, they never learned how to drive, and they're like in their 30s or something. And I get it, if you're somewhere where they have robust public transportation, if you're listening from somewhere, some country that has, you know, a good public transportation system, or some state or city or whatever, cool, that works for you. But what do you do? What do you do if there's like an emergency, right? Some sort of like thing going on with an apocalypse, and there's like all these cars around now, and there's no Uber, right? there's no ride shares, there's no carpooling. You can't just call a taxi. What are you gonna do? Like you're gonna be the one in the zombie apocalypse that goes, I don't know how to drive a car, and everyone's gonna look at you and go, what, really? So that's a little bit more of the dumbing down. It's like people don't have to learn how to drive anymore. And I think it's not just because, oh, the technology is there, right? I think it's, we have another headless horseman here. I think it's because, like, it's too complicated for people now, right? So for us, driving was like the freedom. Could you die, please? Nope. Driving was like the freedom thing, right? You could get in the car, go somewhere, have your own thing going on. You didn't have to worry about your parents or anything else, right? You didn't have to worry about getting picked up and dropped off at the mall and stuff. Although, do people go to malls anymore? I don't know. But like getting picked up and stuff, you didn't have to worry about that. But now, a car is like this this challenge that like you have to go look up things on YouTube because people's parents don't teach them anymore, I don't think. And if they do, it's rare. I did again, I did an episode recently on like our drivers. Why are drivers so bad? And it's because people just don't care anymore. But the teaching, the education system for it is so dumbed down that people aren't learning the basics. I mean, watch body cam videos, right? There are an appreciable number of people who just don't know the basic rules of the road. Like, if a cop comes up behind you with his lights on, you get over. It doesn't matter if he's pulling you over or not. You get over and slow that way and slow down, right? That's like the rule. We all understand it. We all do it. We all know it. But a lot of people these days are just failing to learn that stuff because it's too complicated. That's what I'm starting to hear from people. Like, oh, why don't you have a driver's license? I don't know, it just seems so complicated. I never learned how to when I was younger. My dad never taught me or whatever it is. It's like, wow. So, for us, when I was growing up, the dumbing down indicator was the thing called Cliff's Notes. Okay? They're not called Cliff Notes, by the way. They're called Cliff's Notes. Those yellow... I don't even know if you guys know what those are. A lot of you... They're like these books for novels and stuff that like summed them up. It was like basically just like it put them down to bullet points and like what the information was in it, kind of like an AI summary these days, right? And it was the teachers could always tell. The good teachers could always tell that you were using them because they use specific language and they use specific, wording and things, and the way that they sum things up was kind of an interesting way to look at the novels sometimes. And so the teacher would be like, I can see that you use Cliff Notes, But these days, it's AI, right? I've seen a couple of videos where like teachers are melting down because their students are using a specific kind of AI software or app to like take notes for them and then summarize them, spit out a result. And so the teachers is just like, stop using AI, do the work yourself for God's sake, And they're like legitimately freaked out about this because the kids are not learning it themselves. They're reading something that an AI system, or back in the day, you just leave a tape recorder there, or you pay someone who's in the class to take the notes for you, right? It gets to the point where you're not learning information legitimately. You're learning it as a single serving piece of education, right? You're learning it just for that period of time that you need to and put it out on the test sheet, right? Fill in your bubbles or do your online exam or whatever it is. You're not taking the time to actually learn that information. You're taking the time to learn it, temporarily, right? So that goes along with it as well. Ooh, so where else is it kind of coming out? Well, besides that Gmail thing, that blew my mind today because it was telling me what I wrote my wife. I know it's right there in the email, but that's going to lead to all sorts of stuff. And the argument is there, right? That AI is making people so stupid. I don't think it's just that. I think it's the abbreviate. Okay, he's sitting here popping and locking. I don't know what's going on. But I think that it's not just that it's AI, right? AI isn't making us dumber on its own. It's just that things are becoming too complex. People have too short of an attention span. They don't want to engage with things on any level because there are so many things going on in the world all the time, right? I mean, for a good example, my wife does Duolingo. I know what it is, a language learning app and stuff like that. And they gamify the process of learning Spanish or French or whatever you're going to learn. Well, it's a great way to do it. But the thing is, if you are just someone who thinks that you're going to learn how to speak Spanish well enough to go visit... What's happening to you, bro? If you think you're going to learn Spanish well enough from an app that you can play every day, because that's what it is. It's basically playing. It's fun. I've seen her use it. It's a fun thing, and it does help you with things like conversational Spanish and learning a little bit of like things like conjugation and word usage and stuff like that, and common phrases to talk about, right? But some people think that, okay, well, I have Duolingo, I've used it for a couple months, so I'm going to travel to Spain now, and I'm going to talk to everybody like I'm a local. Well, the thing is, if you play it for just a couple of minutes every day, you think that you're absorbing the information in a meaningful manner. But if you're just doing it for fun, right? I've seen a lot of people just like, oh, I do this for fun, and they don't really have a meaningful, like, use for it except for reference, I guess, you know? Like, I guess? I don't know. But you see, those people don't really end up learning the language. And it's because there's so many other things going on. That app is one of, like, 40. That's... Stab him in the face. He got a little tripped up. Anyway, so I think, you've got like 40 different apps on your phone, right? One of them is Duolingo, and how much time are you really going to give to it? And how much brain power are you going to actually give to it, too? There we go. Let's do a little John Wick action here. Yeah, baby. Where are you? But, if there's so many things going on, how much of your brain power are you going to keep in that meaningful place, right? For learning something instead of just having a little, surface level experience. And so there's less of this traditional knowledge. There's less of this, philosophy. I see people. Okay, so this is a concept I think is kind of interesting. As we go through time, there's like a cone effect of more stuff that comes out. And because of it, it kind of blurs everything else. It kind of makes everything just soft and mushy. Okay? So the great philosophers back in the day, Sartre, Nietzsche, Descartes, these people, they said some profound things, right? They sat and pondered They sat and pondered the mysteries of the universe, right? And so what they said is stuff that philosophers, when you take an actual philosophy course, right, not just 101, where they teach you about existentialism and shit like that, if you go more than surface level and you start learning about philosophy, you learn about these great philosophers. Well, the thing is, they were saying stuff at a time when not much was written down, first of all, okay? They didn't write down a lot of stuff back then. And so when they did, it tended to be meaningful, right? Let me see if I can help this guy out. He's like still here, but he's not. But, so it was meaningful because there weren't a lot of people, putting things to paper at that point, right? There weren't a lot of people that were really, able to put down their deep thoughts. But, at the same time, people, intelligence was like a rich person's thing most of the time. Damn it. You had to, come here. There you go. You had to, be basically rich in order to be educated back then. So that was like a sign of wealth and power and clout, right? And the kind of things that you had going on. Being well-read and intelligent was, like a privilege almost. Well, as technology progressed, you get, people, there's more people. And because of more people, there's more innovation. And because of more innovation, there's more things like written word and, spoken media, where you get all sorts of things going on. Where there's more and more information all the time from more and more sources. And so you have some really, really deep he's still going around. You have some really, really deep, amazing thoughts that would completely rival the great philosophers, but no one hears it. No one gives a shit because no one heard it. It was like he's just one guy out of 2 million channels on YouTube that said something, incredible, but no one saw it, or the people that did, maybe a million or two if someone's lucky, because some dude has just got random thoughts that are deep and meaningful, not going to get a lot of traction. Well, someone like, I don't know, I'm not going to say any names because I don't want the system to flag anything. I don't need any drama or anything. But you know who I'm talking about. Some of the big YouTubers and the big influencers on social media, they say something, and since they have 25 million followers or something, suddenly all those 25 million followers think that they've just said the deepest shit ever. They have said things now that rival the great philosophers, right? And so that's the problem. This dilution of thought, this dilution of responsibility, and people are starting to not fear consequence in society anymore. And so, you have kids that you tell them, wow, years ago, when you wanted to spook a kid, and you might not think that it worked, but it kind of did, where you say, when you grow up, you're going to need this stuff. And if you don't pay attention, like, seriously, dude, you're going to have some issues, right? These days, the kids are like, I don't care, whatever, I can get an app, right? It doesn't matter to me. So it was, you're not going to have a calculator everywhere you go was the thing that when I was a kid, what they used to say. Well, now you do. You have a phone that has, like, every single thing. You know everything going on. Am I just, like, holding it? Oh. Is that an ability I have? Come here, bro. Can I just... That's awesome, dude. Anyway, but, like, you get to this point where you get dumbed down because things just get easier and easier, and there's more things out there, and there's no fear of, like, oh, you're gonna grow up and you're not gonna know how to code, right? Because people say, learn to code. Well, if you don't need to learn to code anymore because AI has replaced that whole industry, look, we adapt, right? But we're at kind of a crossroads. We're at the place where, like, Star Trek actually begins, the interesting part of the lore, which is, we're at that crossroads where we can go, like, full utopian society, and everyone gets better and everyone betters themselves and gets into art and technology and science just because they want to learn, just because they want to use their brains for this stuff, right? Or the other sad possibility, besides my Wolverine mod, hell yeah, the other possibility is the idiocracy route. We get 500 years down the line, and everyone is so hopelessly stupid that there's nothing left in American society except, like they show in the movie, like just a bunch of grunts and facial features, and everyone just kind of says, meme phrases all the time. The only way that we communicate up to our highest levels of government and on the globe is, like, they communicate with memes. And with sound bites and stuff, like someone in the place says something kind of crazy, right? And suddenly you've got your person sitting in the ambassador of Spain, right? Hits a button and it goes, oh my god, right? Is that what we're going towards? Or are we going towards the future where we better ourselves some more? Because right now, man, people getting dumb. You can see it everywhere you look. Whether it's body cam videos or in the news or on social media, people are just getting stupid. Like, they're just not understanding. Whoa, what are you doing? They're just not understanding basic concepts about life that used to be totally, like, common sense things. I can't really come up with a bunch because they're so commonplace for me. Like, the number of people that don't know what gas goes in their car, much less the driving part, like I said, stuff like that, simple things. Stop at a red light, slow down and try to stop at a yellow light, things like this. And people are like, I don't know, I didn't know I was supposed to do that. Or, like, voting. I didn't know I was supposed to go out and vote at a specific place. I thought they just came to me. Like, I guess it can kind of break down to what are they doing in society right now, and, like, education, right? There's a lot of places that are really good at education, but a lot of places, some silly numbers that they're not learning things anymore. And I think it's because we're augmenting ourselves with tech. Tech's great, we need it for the future, but unless we decide that tech is going to be something that makes us, better instead of a replacement for thinking, I think until we get to that point, thing is that we're just going to see more dumb people. George Carlin said, think of the dumbest person you know. Or no, the most average person you know. The most, like, boring, non-intelligent, just baseline person you know. And then, think about this. 50% of society is dumber than that person. And I think that number's going up. That was George Carlin said that like in the 90s or in the 80s. I think since then, I think like 65% of people that are going to be dumber than the average person. Now that's scary. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that. That's kind of my take on it. Do you think we're getting dumber? Is that a thing? Do you think we're actually getting stupider as a species? And if so, do you think we're going to make it? How much longer are we going to go? Like, we just don't understand how things work. Forget how all of the SpaceX rockets work and stuff like that. And we're just looking at it like, wow, that's a nice statue. Anyway, we'll see you next time here on Orpheus Plays. Be good, do good, and treat yourself well because more than this guy, you deserve it. We'll see you next time. Bye!